Today, we're diving into the global energy market, but forget what you know about simple supply and demand. This is a whole new ballgame. We're talking about a high-stakes geopolitical chess match, where every single move is a massive calculated gamble.
This quote right here, it absolutely nails it. Trillion-dollar decisions. Think about that. It's not just about market fundamentals anymore. The real action, the real strategy, is in trying to predict the future. Future sanctions, new alliances, major political shifts. It's a world where the flow of oil has less to do with geology and everything to do with anticipating your rival's next move. The entire game has been flipped on its head.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. We'll start with the new geopolitical setup, then look at a huge consolidation wave in the U.S. We'll dive into Chevron's two-front strategy and India's big bet. Then we'll compare two completely different gambles and wrap it all up by looking at the new energy map that's emerging. First up, the new geopolitical gamble. Let's set the board. And it's super important to get this right from the start. What we're about to talk about, these aren't just random business deals. Nope. These are all deeply connected moves on a global chessboard, and they have huge implications.
And that brings us to the new reality. It used to be that the hard part was just finding the oil. Now, the real challenge is strategy. It's all about political foresight, being able to navigate this incredibly complex web of international relations to lock down a future that is, let's be honest, anything but certain.
All right, on to our second point, the U.S. consolidation wave. Think of this as building a fortress. What we're seeing is this absolutely seismic shift happening right here in the U.S., a major strategic pivot towards creating a kind of domestic energy fortress through some massive consolidation. Just look at this number, $200 billion. That's how much M&A activity happened in the U.S. oil sector just last year. That's a 4x increase in spending. But here's the really fascinating part. It's not just the sheer size of that number, it's where that money came from that tells the real story.
And this is the trade-off right here. While that spending on mergers and acquisitions went through the roof, you can see that shareholder returns, dividends and stock buybacks, they actually dropped by 25%. And listen, that was no accident. This was a deliberate, strategic choice.
So what's the new mandate? It's pretty clear the industry is playing defense. They're saying, forget the short-term payouts for a minute. Instead, they're plowing that cash back into getting bigger. The end goal is to create these massive, hyper-efficient operations that are so dominant, so low cost, that they can weather any storm, no matter how crazy oil prices get.
Okay, let's talk about Chevron's two-front strategy. This is a totally different playbook. While everyone else is building a fortress at home, Chevron is out there playing this incredible game of, well, you could call it geopolitical arbitrage. They're essentially making bets on two completely different and very complex fronts at the same time.
So here's how this brilliant strategy works. On one side, you've got the short game in Venezuela. They're bringing in this sanctioned crude, it's high margin, and it gives them immediate returns. Quick cash. But then, on the other side, you've got the long game in Iraq. This is where they secured a massive 4.36 billion barrel oil field. We're talking a generational asset, a 30-year bet that gives them a solid foothold inside OPEC. It's this perfect balancing act between making money right now and securing their future for decades to come.
Okay, let's now to another part of the world for our fourth section, India's calculated bet. I'd call this one the strategic counterweight. This is honestly one of the boldest plays happening anywhere on the global stage right now, and it's all being driven by this incredibly powerful economic alignment between India and Russia.
$69 billion. That's how much trade between India and Russia has exploded. It's just boomed. And yeah, a lot of that is fueled by India buying up massive amounts of discounted Russian oil. But here's the thing. It's evolving way beyond just an energy deal. This is deepening into a genuine economic alliance, to the point where they're even signing new pacts for skilled labor.
So that naturally leads to the big question, right? Why on earth would India risk getting hit with massive sanctions from the U.S. for this? With that threat always hanging over their head, what is the strategic calculation here? Why are they doubling down on this relationship?
And the answer is fascinating. India is essentially betting that its strategic value to Washington is too big to fail. The wager is this: their role as a critical counterweight to other major powers in Asia is just too important for the U.S. to risk damaging the relationship. New Delhi is banking on the idea that their geopolitical importance will always trump any desire to enforce sanctions. And honestly, it's one of the clearest signals we have of the new multipolar world we're living in.
All right, for our fifth section, we've got a tale of two very different gambles. Let's call it patience versus pressure. On one side, you have a masterclass in extreme patience from ExxonMobil, and on the other, a pretty clear example of a failed attempt at coercive pressure by Russia.
So first, let's unpack Exxon's play. It all comes down to this really cool financial idea called a zero-cost call option. Now, what is that? Well, the easiest way to think about it is like this. Imagine you used to own a winning lottery ticket. You lost it, but now you have a claim to get it back for free if things change in the future. You have the right to get it back, but you don't have to. It's a free lottery ticket on a prize you once owned.
So here's the story of how that bet is playing out. Exxon was forced out of its huge Sakhalin-1 project in Russia, and they had to take a $4.6 billion write-off. I mean, to everyone outside, it looked like a total loss. Game over. But then, and this is the crazy part, a new Russian decree just came out that unexpectedly opens a door for Exxon to reclaim its stake. So what does that mean? It means if the geopolitical winds shift, if sanctions ease up down the road, Exxon could potentially get a multi-billion-dollar asset back online for free. It's an absolutely incredible long-term bet on a totally different future.
Okay, now let's flip the coin and look at the other gamble, the one that really didn't pay off. So Russia recently targeted some oil facilities in Ukraine that were actually operated by Azerbaijan's state oil company. The plan here seemed pretty straightforward. Step 1, intimidate Azerbaijan. Step 2, disrupt this growing energy corridor between Azerbaijan and Ukraine that, crucially, bypasses Russia. And Step 3, use that disruption to reassert regional control. Seemed like a clear plan.
But the result? The absolute opposite of what they intended. It was, to put it mildly, a complete strategic failure.
It just backfired spectacularly. I mean, instead of that energy corridor, the attacks actually sped up the cooperation talks between Azerbaijan and Ukraine. Instead of scaring their neighbors into submission, it just made them more determined to build their own independent alliances. What it really revealed was a sphere of influence that's diminishing, not growing. It's really a textbook example of how trying to use pressure can end up creating the very thing you were trying to stop.
Okay, so we've looked at all of these different plays. For our final section, let's zoom all the way out and try to read the whole board. What does this all add up to? What does this new energy map actually look like?
So let's just do a lightning round recap of what we've seen. We saw the U.S. industry playing defense, building a fortress at home. We saw Chevron masterfully balancing short-term profits with long-term security. We watched India boldly forge its own independent path. We saw Exxon's game of extreme patience, making a long-shot bet on a political reset. And finally, we saw Russia's coercive gamble backfire big time.
And when you put all those pieces together, they point to a new, fundamental truth. Winning and losing in the energy world today, it's not just about who has the most oil in the ground anymore, not by a long shot. The new winners are the ones who are masters of this new game, the ones who can navigate sanctions, forge clever alliances, and have the strategic foresight to see several moves ahead. And that really leaves us with one big final question to chew on. As we watch this global chessboard keep changing, as these massive corporations and entire nations make these incredible trillion-dollar bets, you have to ask yourself, in this new era of the geopolitical gamble, who is really in the best position to win?